Okay, so what's your least favorite thing about camping?
Peeing in the middle of the night when it's cold. I like getting up to pee in the middle of the night because then I go look at the stars.
See? A bad thing made better by a good thing. Haiku. Hypnotic shimmer. A dark cold begets starlight. Awakening change. Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Carlton Cullins here in South Austin, Texas, and welcome to Mixtape Gumbo. This week, I want to talk about the outdoors some more. I want to talk about nature, and specifically, I thought it would be fun to start off this episode talking about camping. When I say camping, I know some of you out there cringe. If you're like me, I love camping. When I hear the word camping, I talk about nature, I get excited. Some of you out there, and maybe you hate camping. Maybe you've never been camping. Maybe you went once and you had a horrific experience and you never want to talk about it again. I understand both. I grew up kind of more or less a country boy. I call myself country ghetto, but I grew up in Tyler, Texas. I spent a lot of times in the outdoors. My father, my grandfathers, a lot of my family were outdoors people and hunted, fished, all that kind of stuff. We camped a lot. So I've camped a lot growing up. I camped as a child. I've camped a lot as an adult. Me and my wife go camping a lot. We travel a lot to the national parks. We've camped all over the place. But I have a lot of friends and a lot of people I've met since I've been an adult. I live in Austin now. I've met a lot of people here who don't camp out much. They're not into outdoors. They don't even like getting outside. They don't like bugs. They don't like the heat. They don't like the cold. They don't like I understand that. What I want to do though, I want to keep an open mind. Everybody keep an open mind. If you've never camped out before, maybe you had once or twice and you had a horrible experience, it's something worth trying again. For those that camp out, you already know it's pretty awesome, but there's two basic types of camping, just to kind of break it down. There's one we call non-primitive, and it's what it sounds like, and one's more primitive. The non-primitive we often refer to as cul-de-sac. A lot of people joke and call it glamping because it's like glamorous camping. It's wonderful. It's probably what we do most often because the places to do this are easier. Remote, primitive type camping is the other type of camping. It's basically where you're going to have a huge backpack and you're going to carry everything, your food, your water, your tent, your sleeping bag, everything that you need. You're going to take it with you in a backpack and you're going to camp out and hike out to it, typically miles and miles. You're going to camp out. It's quieter typically out there, but it is harder on the body if you're not used to that. It's more remote and you're not going to have access to a bathroom and electricity and things like that. So something to consider. But most places, city parks, wherever you live, state parks, all the national parks, even federal land, which there's a ton of it. You can Google it. There's a ton of federal land in the United States. You can camp out at so many different places. I grew up, in Tyler. We camped a lot on private property, friends and family that had places we could go camp. And that was nice because we could go to it anytime. We didn't have to make reservations. But when you camp out, typically at these cul-de-sac, non-primitive camping or even primitive, a lot of times, particularly in an area like Austin where I live, you need a reservation. And you can do that online. You can call them and make a reservation. But it's really important because a lot of people these days are wanting to go camping. So they fill up fast. A lot of campsites, depending on just a lot of variables, have campsites they call first come, first serve. So you cannot reserve them. You get them when you get there. So recently we went camping and we got to the spot. It was a first come, first serve. And we got there and all the spots were taken. So sometimes that is a risk that you take. And we had to basically go get a hotel. That does happen sometimes. So if you've got a big family and stuff like that, that's definitely something to consider. But most of the time you can make a reservation. But even when you have a reservation, you can't always reserve the spot. So it is more or less first come first. You reserve this, a campsite, but when you get there, you've got to go find which spot you want. And some spots, not all spots are created equal. So you do want to get there, look around and find a good spot. If you want privacy or if you want one next to the bathroom, you can look for that kind of stuff. But camping is so therapeutic. Even if you don't know it yet, even if you don't like the outdoors, there's so many benefits. It's so de-stressing to get out, particularly when you keep it simple. A lot of people make camping complicated. They bring too much stuff, or they just don't feel confident in their abilities. I'm telling you right now, it can be really simple and easy. Just you need to make it that way. You may need to make a list of things you need to do and bring, but it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be expensive. You don't need a lot of gear. But physiologically and even psychologically, it's so powerful to be in the outdoors and camping overnight. Whether it seems like it or not, it really makes you, in time, better appreciate the things that we have and how good most of us have it. You just don't know until you do it. And it sounds horrible. Why would you want to be outdoors? And sometimes there's not bathrooms and you have to go to the bathroom in the outdoors and like, oh, how horrible that sounds. But when you do, you appreciate how nice it is to have a bathroom and to have a bed and have a thermostat where you can control the heat and the cooling in your house and shelter over when the wind's blowing and the rain's coming and all that kind of stuff. It's really important, and you'll never really appreciate it if you don't camp, if you don't get outdoors and spend a night away from your comfort sometimes. But like I said, it comes down to you feeling confident in what you can do. So many people, like I said, make it complicated. They think they need a lot of gear. You don't. In essence, the gear you need is all you need really is a tent, a sleeping bag, and probably a pillow, and food and water. That's the short list. I would recommend that you're probably going to need a lot more than that. But in essence, that is really all you really need to have is spend a night outdoors. And you can technically, growing up, we spent a lot of nights, we camped out in the backyard in the summer. It was fun. We make a big tent, we all hang out. And that's something to do. You may try, particularly if you've got kids, camping out in the backyard just to start, just to get comfortable with it. That alone will make you appreciate the inside a lot better. But when you do camp out, these are other suggested things. You need lights. You're going to need a little lantern, which you could use a flashlight in your tent. You could get a little headlamp and hook it on to just like a gallon, one of those clear gallons of water that you get at the grocery store. You could hook a headlamp around the outside of that, and it makes like a little lamp. It's really nice. But you do need flashlights. You need some type of lighting. Me and my wife camp. When we camp around Austin in places that have electrical hookups at each campsite, I typically bring an extension cord with one strand of white Christmas lights, and I string it in through the trees and around our tent. I love that. It creates a little atmosphere. That's just something extra. If you're really used to your bed and you're afraid to sleep on the ground, you do probably need to get something to get you off the ground to be a little bit more comfortable. You could put like pallets and a bunch of blankets down to make it softer. If you're camping in the cold, you definitely don't want to sleep on the hard ground because the ground is going to be cold and it's going to make you cold during the night. They make sleeping pads that are designed to keep you off the ground and keep you warm and safe because your body temperature will drop during the night. But we typically just bring a blow-up mattress. Now, sometimes you may need a little hand pump, but if you've got a blow-up mattress at home, we have one that hooks up to the cigarette lighter, so we just blow up a couple of, and they're like 6, sometimes even 12-inch blow-up mattresses. When we put them in our tent, I have no shame in doing that. I can sleep on the hard ground. I have actually slept on the gravel a couple of times, not by choice. Just situations arouse, but I'm not afraid to sleep on the ground. But when I have a choice, there's nothing wrong with having something comfortable to sleep on. But with that said, you put your tent up. A simple dome tent. Don't get a complicated tent. Don't get an expensive tent unless you just want to. Get a simple dome tent. They're usually less than $50. You can get them at Walmart or anywhere. A simple dome tent. If it says it sleeps 3 or 4 people, that typically means 2 people comfortably. If you've got a family, you're going to want to get a bigger tent, obviously. But you set up your tent. And then you put whatever you're going to sleep on to make it comfortable, and then you have your sleeping bag. If it's going to be cold outside, have a sleeping bag that will do the job. You don't want to get cold during the night. If you've just got a normal summer sleeping bag, bring some blankets, to put on a few blankets if you get really cold. Bring your pillow, bring something comfortable. I like, when we camp, I bring sometimes blow-up pillows that are made for camping. You can bring your home pillows. I usually bring a couple just to make it comfortable. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But bring warm blankets. Bring warm clothes if it's going to be cold outside. If it's going to be hot, it's going to be hot. You're not going to have AC, so dress appropriately there as well. If you can have fire and you want to find that out before you go out there, bring some firewood. Oftentimes they sell firewood at the campsite. Sometimes they sell out. You might want to just bring some. You can usually get it at the grocery store or a gas station nearby. Bring something to light the firewood. Sometimes people bring newspaper to light with a lighter. You may even want to bring some lighter fluid because that makes it a little easier. I always try to do it more primitive style, but just make it easy and comfortable. Bring some firewood and something to light it on fire. Obviously, you're going to want to bring food and drink. It's up to you. If you've got a fire and you want to get fancy and cook stuff, that's great. That's going to take a lot of time and a lot of work. I promise you, it's fun sometimes if you're really prepared and you're used to it, but if you're not, I don't recommend it. Having a fire is really nice, but I would say you could even bring food that was already pre-prepared. You could bring something from home, bring a cooler, put whatever food and drinks you want to bring in there. If you want to make stuff, we have a little Coleman stove that uses little butane, I believe it's butane, little canisters that are really inexpensive. You can get them anywhere. And we make pasta often. You can boil water fast. It's easy to clean up. But you're going to need, if you're going to bring stuff that needs cleaning, you need to bring stuff to clean those dishes with. So, like I said, make a list of all this stuff. If it's hot and there's a lot of bugs outside, you may want to bring bug spray. I always bring earplugs because the outside noise can distract you from sleeping, particularly if you're not used to it. So bring earplugs if you want to. We have a fold-out portable picnic table that we got that we love. It fits really 4 people that, are not too heavy. But me and my wife, we bring that often, and for us, it works out perfect. Sometimes they have picnic tables at campsites, and sometimes they don't. So if they don't, something to think about. Some people like to bring music. If you do, you need to have all your stuff charged. But do be respectful. I've camped out a lot in my lifetime, and there's nothing worse than having music or just being too loud, talking, yelling, screaming too loud when other people are trying to chill out. I go to the outdoors to enjoy the sounds of nature and be quiet. I don't want to hear car alarms. I don't want to hear people screaming and getting drunk and howling at the moon all night. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you're going to do that, maybe request a group site that's away from all the other sites, because sometimes it's hard. There's nothing worse than when you are trying to go to bed, or say you do stay up all night and you drink and you're really hungover the next morning. You don't want a bunch of kids coming over waking you up at 5 a.m., but that's the same. So you got to be real respectful of the people around you. So if you do have music, nothing wrong with that. Keep it chill, keep it quiet, keep it around your site. Something me and my wife do, is the last little thing that we've done often, because it gets dark in the winter. We camp a lot when it's colder. Usually it's getting darker earlier. You eat, you go to bed, and it's like 6 o'clock. It's really early, way early, and you're like, what is there to do? You can have games, you could do all this kind of stuff. You could sit and talk if you're into that. But me and my wife, we're not real into all that kind of stuff indefinitely. So we typically charge an iPad or our phone or even a computer or laptop, and we put movies on it, and we bring that in, and it's really nice. So we basically tuck ourselves in, get warm. I wrap the Christmas lights around the top of our tent. It creates a cool little atmosphere. We turn all the other lights off. We hook the iPad around the front of the tent, and we watch a movie, and it's awesome. Usually after that time, we're ready to pass out, but it makes the whole night enjoyable. The next morning, you just sleep in. Make sure to bring warm socks. If you ain't got no hair on your head like me, bring a warm hat when it's cold outside. You'll sleep better. Tuck yourself in. Be prepared that you're going to have to go to the bathroom during the night. It's probably the least wonderful thing about camping, but just be prepared. If you're a guy, maybe you could pee around your tent. Maybe you could pee into a container. If you're a woman, you're going to have to walk to a bathroom. If there's no bathroom, you need to figure out an option for that. They actually make some things you can get that you can pee standing up. So there's lots of things to think about, but anyway, I know there's a lot of stuff on this list. Go back and listen to it again. Make a list of all this stuff. It doesn't have to be complicated. That was a lot of stuff that I mentioned, but it can be really simple. But plan a trip. If you've got a family, I think it's really important to get your kids out camping and get them exposed to that. They'll appreciate things better, I think, in time. But the point is to have fun. If you do go to parks, there's usually a lot of other things you can do. You could go hiking. You could get in a boat. You could do a lot of things. Check to see what they have. But anyway, if you've never camped before, go camping. If you do like camping, make a reservation today, make some plans, and go enjoy life. All right, let's move on. So continuing on with this idea of camping and the outdoors, there's one album that if you want to listen to some music in the outdoors while you're camping, this is the album for me that always comes to mind. This is an album by Willie Nelson, and it is the album Red-Headed Stranger, which he put out in 1975. He was around 42 years old, 43, which is close to my age now, and he changed things forever. This was his 18th studio album, which just blows my mind. He had already had a long career in Nashville. Willie, just so you know, Willie is largely associated with Austin, Texas. I love Willie Nelson with all my heart. Most people from Texas do. Willie was born in Abbott, Texas, which is not too far from here. He eventually got a recording contract, moved to Nashville, Tennessee, where a lot of country western artists start. Had a successful career there by all means, but it was nothing compared to the career that he would eventually have when he came back to Texas and he started doing things his way. He got signed to a record label up there, and they wanted him to perform songs that he wrote a lot of the songs, but they wanted him to do things his way. I don't even think they wanted him to have a beard. They wanted him to talk, walk, dress, and do everything like they wanted to, because that's kind of how Nashville runs everything. He is a naturally rebellious person, and he started that whole, he was one of him with Johnny Cash, and all that started this whole outlaw movement where they were tired of Nashville, they were tired of rules, they were songwriters, they were purists, and they were going to do things their way, or they'd be damned for it. So he basically was able to get out of his old contract. He got a new record contract, moved back to Texas, moved to Austin, Texas, or on the outskirts, and recorded this album in 1975, Red-Headed Stranger. This album is phenomenal. It is the album that really blew up his career as far as the new wave. He became known as the Cosmic Cowboy for a lot of different reasons. It helped explode the music scene that is known in Austin, Texas. He was basically one of the founding fathers of all that. He was one of the first artists featured on Austin City Limits, the TV show, and just changed everything. This album, Red-Headed Stranger, is a concept album which was relatively new at the time. So it's an album that has a theme. Every song is a part of a theme, an overall theme. And it tells the story of a man. It's pretty dark, but it's so good. This album is also compared to other albums of the time, was not an expensive album to make. It was recorded in Garland, Texas, on a lower budget. The record company actually thought it was going to fail because at the time, country and western, because of the popularity of the 70s disco changed everything in all waves of music except for maybe punk rock. But disco had a lot of overproduction to it. Disco's beautiful in its own right, but it used a lot of fancy, slick recording techniques, and it often had like symphonic strings, violins and stuff on it that made it this slick sound. Country and western adopted a lot of that sound. Stuff became what they consider now to be overproduced at that time. Willie was not a fan of this. Willie recorded this album as pretty much just him and his guitar, a little drummer, a little bass, and a little piano. His sister plays piano. And just recorded this simple album. His vocals on this album are my favorite of any of his recordings. I love the tone of his voice at that time. I love the sound of his guitar. It's so stripped down and so simple. Anyway, it's great. It is a great album to listen to when you're in the outdoors. Maybe you're on a road trip, especially when you're camping. It's just so low key, so beautiful. I want you to listen. Preferably, you should listen to the whole album from beginning to end in order. But if you're new to Willie Nelson, you're new to this album. This is the album that had Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, which actually was not a Willie Nelson song, but he loved this song, recorded it. It's a phenomenal song, phenomenal version of this song. If you've never heard it, I would definitely start there, but I hope that you'll listen to the entire thing. Just an amazing album. It went to number one on the charts. The record company thought it would fail altogether. It came out and people criticized it, and it ended up changing everything. And to this day, it still changed everything. Rolling Stone it's on their top 500 greatest albums of all time. I would put it in my top 10 list. I think you should check it out. So please go do so. Let's move on. So just in case anybody missed it, this whole episode today is dedicated to being and going outside, being around nature. It is so important, even if you don't believe it is. You don't have to be a super nature freak or anything like that. Just learning to appreciate nature better, I think, helps with everything. I will say right here, right now, all the things in my life that I've lived so far, and I don't see this changing ever, that don't make sense to me, or they make me sad, or they make me angry, they make me confused. All of that, for me, is made better when I spend more time in nature, because I've learned to understand that there's just things that we're not going to understand maybe during this lifetime. Nature is funny because nature's not purposely cruel. It's not purposely kind. Nature just is. It just keeps going and does what it does. And I think when we learn to see life that way, it helps so many things that are oftentimes just confusing. But it's important to get outside. I would say a regular basis, but I'm going to argue every single day. Every single day you have opportunities. Each of us has to find it. I'm very fortunate. I work from home and I make myself get out as many times during the day as I can. It's so important to get out there, to look up at the sky, to look down at the ground, to look all around. As cheesy it is all that. I know it all sounds like a rhyming poem, but breathe deeply. Appreciate your life that you've been given. And we are a part of nature. I think when we learn to see ourselves as part of nature, part of a bigger world, part of the universe, we understand that what we do affects everything else, even if we don't believe it does. It really, I think it's important that you appreciate the vastness of it all. But it doesn't matter if you live in the city or the country. You can get outside. There's always somewhere you can go. If it's hot or it's really cold, obviously you've got to figure out what times are going to be best for you to do that. If you work a job, maybe you could go out at lunch. You may could walk somewhere. You may have to drive. You may not be able to do it at all. If you work at Walmart next to an interstate in the middle of the city, you may not have an easy place to get to, so you may have to do it before work or after work, but there's always time. I make a point to try to exercise outside as much as I can. I'm a big fan of walking for exercise and for our health. And I'm going to recommend right now while I'm thinking about it, there's a video by Dr. Mike Evans. You can find it on YouTube. It's a video he did on the importance of walking every day for 30 minutes. He argues and says, and I believe him, that it is really one of the most beneficial things that anybody could do for their health. Just walking 30 minutes a day. I know it doesn't sound like much. You're not going to lose a ton of weight necessarily doing that, but for your health and longevity, I would argue that not much is better. Getting outside is nice. You want to breathe some clean air. You want to get some sunshine. Sunshine is important for a lot of different reasons. It may give you an excuse to go to new places, to go explore, to be a kid again, to try to find some beauty in the world. Because every day life gets crazy and you need to get outside and be around nature, natural things, hopefully beautiful things every single day. Open your windows. Sit by a window if you can. Don't be looking down at your phone all the time. Don't be always caught up in everything else and looking down at your lap or anything like that inside your head. Look out. Notice the world around you. I'm wishing that you'll do this more, and I'm hoping it will help you appreciate everything that we have, because most of us, we have it way better than we'll ever believe. And it's important to renew that every single day. Anyway, I'm getting off my soapbox and off my chair. I wish everybody to have a wonderful, wonderful day. Take care of each other out there. Be kind to strangers. Be kind to yourself. I'll see y'all next time. Wait a minute. Hold the phone. I forgot one last thing. I do have a Facebook page, Find Mixtape Gumbo. Each week I post links to things I talked about in the episode on that page. Also, if you have a Spotify account, mind you, I have a free account. Find Mixtape Gumbo. I actually have a playlist that I've created that I have the songs that I talk about and the artists that I've talked about in order on that playlist. It's a beautiful thing. Go find it, share it, have fun with it, and I'll see y'all next time.